She is the first Filipina to complete both the World Marathon Challenge and the World Marathon Majors, marking an historic milestone for the Philippines. With us now on Thought Leaders, the country head of Yield Guild Games Pilipinas, a Web3 Guild protocols regional partner and the biggest supporter of Web3 adoption in the Philippines. Please welcome Mench Dizon. So good to have you with us,
Hello,
Mench.
Cathy. Thank you for having
so
me.
much for being here and congratulations. Oh my goodness, what a feat, what an amazing feat you've done. That would be 7 continents in 7 days.
7 marathons.
7 marathons. What was it like?
It was the most epic adventure ever. It's been on my mind to join this since 2015 when I first found out about it. So when it finally happened, it felt so surreal, but it also felt that it was the right time for me to be doing this adventure now that I'm in my 40s.
Why would you say it's the right time?
It's the right time because I guess I now have that financial flexibility to afford something like this. I also am a more patient person, so I don't need to be the fastest runner, especially running 7 marathons. So it's really just having the patience to do it one marathon at a time without having to burn myself out.
Yeah, but this is priceless. I mean, you got to show us what you brought home here. My goodness,
Yeah, all
it's a
the
lot.
medals.
I'm sure the customs people just kind of asked, "Are you selling?"
Yeah, what
some
are
of
these like
what are
metals?
Yes. So this is the one that you got in the World Marathon Challenge.
Yes, so this is the main medal, and
Right.
this is the completed medal after 7 races. But each of the races, you get one medal.
Right.
A medal in Antarctica, in Africa. So each marathon is a victory by itself.
It is. My
Yeah.
goodness. So by the end of the trip, you were maybe 10 kilos heavier coming home here in
And
the
lighter
Philippines.
with all the running. Lighter body,
That's so true.
heavier baggage.
You know, those were really surreal pictures. I mean, just looking at the Antarctica round, I mean, that's where you got off from.
Yes.
The race starts in Antarctica and then ends in Miami.
Yes.
Imagine the weather shock
Yes.
that you probably started with and ended with somewhere sunnier
Yeah.
than
We were
probably
told
Boracay.
we were told to prepare for negative 25 to positive 25. So that swing of temperature plus the varying time zones plus the travel time and lack of sleep in between is really a challenge by itself, especially coming from a tropical country without any intuition for the cold. It was Antarctica that was really quite daunting for me.
And also, they didn't tell you that it was going to be that cold, did they?
They did. They told us it might range from negative 5 to 25. And I don't know how to deal with negative 5 nor 25. So what I did was I tested my gear. I think that the important part in cold weather is really the layering. So I made sure to test my gear beforehand, whether I had the right technical materials, the right layering, and tried running in cold weather. The closest to Southeast Asia would be Japan in December. So that's where I tested my gear.
Right. I thought you went inside a fridge to test it.
I was tempted in an ice plant and just
did.
try running there. That would have been an option.
Yeah, you know, when I heard about your feet, you know, what really came to mind was Forrest Gump. As you know, in the movie, it's fiction, but it was inspired by true events, and I
Yeah.
had to look it up. He did a long run of 1,170 days and in 16 hours. But basically, really, it's finding the meaning in life.
Yeah.
Whenever you find yourself in a fix, so that was the takeaway of that movie. But I wanted to know from your end, what was it that drove you to actually do this? What was the moving sort of the decision, the catalyst that drove you to this kind of feat?
Yeah. For me, I wanted to prove to myself that I can do difficult things. And subjecting myself to this kind of journey where I have to bring with it everything that I've learned as a runner, as a person, and all my life journey together and see whether I could use everything that I've got to really push through with this kind of an adventure. And being able to do that will allow me to transpose that skill. It's a skill to be able to take on hard things in other stuff that I do. And the work that I do as country head of YGG isn't an easy task. So I felt that if I took on this challenge, I can take on anything. So that's one reason for doing it. Another reason is I wanted to prove that we can do anything even as we're much older. Like, even as I'm in my 40s or 50s or what have you, we can still do a lot of things and we can aim for big goals. And I saw this during the race. There were 68 of us from 12 years old to 68 years old running this race all together. And each one of us had our own different motivations. But what's very inspiring is that everyone just kept plodding on amidst all the hurdles, and that's inspiring. So it also allowed me to just keep going, seeing all these people just just plodding on throughout the race.
From marathons to the metaverse. That's
Yeah,
quite a
that's nice.
combination. Did you bring some of your metaverse into the marathon? I mean, that combination probably had been so powerful that you were able to achieve this.
Yeah, what I really brought with me was my experience of dealing with uncertainty. Um, the metaverse Web3 technology is a space that's always in flux, and there's always a lot of uncertainty there, and having that as a mindset that things might shift but you can figure it out is something that I also apply in the running game, especially a multi-day race where you really don't know what you're gonna end up with on a day-to-day basis, but being okay with that uncertainty and knowing that you have the confidence to figure things out as you go along. I think those are the skills that I transposed, no, from one to the other.
Well, let's talk about the skills that you had to learn in those 7 races,
Yeah.
because it's 42.2 kilometer races in 7 places. So that's Antarctica, Cape Town in Africa, Perth, Dubai, Madrid, Fortaleza in South America, and Miami.
Yes.
So you have to complete that in like 7 hours
Yes.
and in 7 days. How did that go then? Was there a point where, things became a little difficult down the line that you probably thought, I'm not going to make this?
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Every
have to stop the
single
journey.
race, every single race, I all was thinking, is this gonna end? Will I ever finish this? But uh, I guess the bigger goal of just finishing all 7, and it doesn't matter how long or how slow I am, but just keeping on and one step after the other is what kept me going. And
Which city was that really made you think, I'm
uh,
going to plow, I'm going to go on, I'm not going to stop?
Madrid, which was the middle point, the 5th race, was the race that really made me stop and think, wow, I still have 3 more loops for this particular race and then 3 more races, right? So it started to get to me. But then I remembered what my coach said, to just take it a race at a time, to not even think about uh, the next day. It's really just zeroing on what's in front of me, which is my step, and then just finishing this race and then recovering so that I'm ready for the next day. But it's really just uh, having that attention and mindfulness that let's just do it for this race. Let's just get this race done and then let's move on and not even think about the other things and the other races over the next few days.
And that's so applicable to life. I mean,
Yes.
that's how you live
Yes,
life, right? You don't
yes.
think about tomorrow, live the moment. And that's
Yes.
exactly what you did. It wasn't just your gear that you took along with you. A very special someone who tagged along.
Yes.
And he happens to be your co-founder
Yes.
for YGG Filipinas, and is also your partner
Yes.
in real life.
Yes.
I mean, how did that go for him from his end, having to go with you throughout this desire for you to do something that you probably thought you couldn't but did?
My husband Gabby has always been my supporter. Across all the crazy races I've done, he would always be there at the finish line, waiting for me when I was doing Boston, Berlin, London. He was supportive as I was doing all my trainings. And he's always been that person who knew all my struggles as well. Because the training is not easy for these things. The time, the aching parts of an older body, uh, the, the expenses related to it. So he's my number one supporter. And he may not have been there for the 7 marathons. He came to Miami to welcome me. But in Madrid, we were talking to each other, or just keeping silent, and he was just listening to my labored breathing. Because as I mentioned, Madrid was tough because it started to get to me. So I called him, and we were just running my loops together. He was telling me about the kids, he was telling me about work. So we were just talking as if we were just hanging out. And it helped me just breeze through those difficult loops. And in Miami, he was there to welcome me. And on my last loop, he joined me. I was wishing he wasn't wearing his Birkenstocks. Good thing he wore his sneakers. So on the last loop, we actually ran the race together. So it was very touching and fitting because we're such teammates that even in the hardest part of my journey, he was there, the highs and lows, the mistakes and the milestones.
So what
So
did you talk about in that last loop? Because that was a really emotional picture there, the hug, you know, super finish line after 7 races. What did you talk about in the last loop?
we were talking about how I finally was there, about to finish. It's a fruition of a dream. He asked me what I wanted to do next. I said, I just want to work because I know the work that we do is meaningful and high impact. So I said, I just want to go back and work. And he says, your team can't say that things are impossible or you can't do, and we can't do it because it can't be done. You can, with credibility, tell them, no, that's something we can figure out. Because if I could run 7 marathons in 7 continents in 7 days, we can figure things
It's
out.
amazing. You were already talking about tomorrow when you were finishing the last loop.
Because I knew I would finish.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the spirit there.
Yeah.
But that brought me back to the greater purpose because when I read Road to Seven, you wrote something in there very powerfully. The challenge was not just about proving your endurance, but using your passion for a greater purpose.
Yeah.
So, what is this greater purpose now that you wanted to go back to? When you said, I want to go back to work.
Yeah. So, a big part of our mission in YGG is bringing economic opportunities to as many Filipinos. We are lucky and grateful that we have a network of partners from game industry, from AI, from technology, and we can bring those partnerships to the Philippines in terms of possible projects, campaigns, programs that can help more people get upskilled in digital technology so that they can participate in this technology. So bridging those two things, the opportunities on one side and the need for upskilling and economic opportunities on the other side is our mission. And so that's a big task, but it's also very exciting. So we have a movement in YGG Pilipinas, which we call the Metaverse Filipino Worker. And think about it as an OFW, but this person, this OFW, MFW, doesn't have to leave the country because they can be with their families and work from where they are, from the provinces or from the cities where they reside. They don't have to go abroad, and they can just work here and continue to provide sustenance and really income for their families and communities.
I know that you won some money from the races. So, what are
Yes.
you going to be doing with that money now that you have this purpose right before you?
Yeah, the race for the fundraising for Road to Seven goes specifically to the Sisters of Mary School. The Sisters of Mary School is a school I was introduced to back in, I think, 2019, and I was immediately impressed by how brilliant these young girls and boys are. They come from the poorest provinces, poorest families, but they're very smart kids. So they're brought to this school, Sisters of Mary. It's a boarding school. And so it's a boarding school, but everyone is a scholar. I was a scholar growing up, so that is something that really tugs at my heartstrings. So I said, eventually I'll try to help this community or this school. Fast forward, preparing for the race, I was thinking, who should I assign as a beneficiary or which particular institution? And it was the Sisters of Mary because they're building a digital transformation center. This center will house around maybe 30 classrooms so that the classrooms will be the venues for digital upskilling. So it's like putting together my personal advocacy, my work advocacy, and my run advocacy, right? Putting all those things together and fundraising for Sisters of Mary. So all funds coming from the race will go towards building that digital transformation center.
So before you made the run and the Magnificent Seven, you already thought about the digital training center. That was in your mind. That if I complete this race, then I'm going to get this money and I'm going to invest it in my advocacy.
Yeah, because it was also the right time. They were fundraising for this digital transformation center. I was looking for a cause to fundraise for, so it was just the right fit.
It all comes together.
Yeah.
The universe just conspiring
Yeah.
for you to reach what you have. What is it that you find now in our educational system that needs plugging? An unmet need. You're in the digital sphere, and you want to train up the kids, but where are we lacking? Because from my understanding, we're actually leading the Web3 development
Yeah.
in the world.
Yeah, I believe it's just the practical skills that the students, that the young people can immediately use and participate and find employment or gigs or part-time work online that they can. The key there is immediately use.
Like making games?
Making games, being content creators, learning to use AI tools, how to build software using the available tools without you having to know how to code. So it's really curating for these students and for these young people what sort of tools are available so that even as you are unable to go into college, because a lot of the students, and I speak for Sisters of Mary, might not be able to step and go to college. So as they graduate, you'd want them to be able to immediately use these technical skills so that they can start earning and help the next set of siblings or maybe help their family just get more means, no, for income.
One would think a tiny country as the Philippines would be big in the metaverse, but we are.
We are.
Are we able to sustain it though, given the skills gap that you're now finding should be that unmet need that we should address?
I think we can sustain it if we are able to really craft programs around upskilling, especially for technology that's really shaping the next few years. And I talk about technologies like AI, like Web3. Those are technologies that we could really leverage off, especially we have a very young population, very savvy. They just really need to be directed and guided in terms of what sort of tools I can use now, how can I use this, and what are the opportunities that I could participate in applying these skills that I learned. So it's really just having that journey from education to application and opportunity for work or for paid gigs or tasks that's available to as many of these young people.
You got me thinking now, can AI replace marathon running?
No,
No,
hopefully
it's
not.
something that cannot.
Well, at least it can help you train better because there are some apps that are AI guided to kind of just help you with your run program, but they can't run for you.
Of course. That's got to be us,
Yeah,
right?
still
So
us.
that
It's
cannot
still
be
a
replaced.
human activity.
I
with
wanted to
all.
pick up on what you said about the MFW because for a long, long time we know OFW, it's overseas Filipino worker. The metaverse Filipino worker, in your mind, should be somebody who works here and is based here, but gets to get the opportunity that's out there in the world.
Yes.
But I wanted to ask whether the new generation that we have, are they actually able to harness all the opportunities of the world has to present to them without even stepping outside the country. Because being an OFW, previously having worked 15 years overseas, it's really enriched me
Yeah.
as a professional. So I'm wondering what you're seeing from your end.
Yeah. I believe what the MFW represents is a choice. Is a choice. It's that agency that they could work here or go elsewhere. But at least they're not forced, or they don't think that that's the only choice they have is to leave the country. What it represents is having that agency to have that choice to say that I can stay here and I can work from here, but the world is also a world that I can explore and I can choose to do that versus just saying to myself, I need to leave because I don't have any other choice but to get more income elsewhere and leave my family behind. So I guess the critical factor there is that choice, that freedom that I can work from wherever I wish to work from and still provide the income that my family or my community needs.
Finding a beneficiary is one, so that's a big part of attacking the problem. But the other part of the solution is the collaborations you make to scale it up. What are the plans down the line to ensure that this digital upskilling is also aligned with what the government's doing to eradicate the learning crisis that we face now in the Philippines?
Yeah, one of the things we're doing is going around the country. So we have an MFW caravan going from Luzon all the way to Mindanao, just taking the story of the MFW around. And along that journey, we also want to collaborate with institutions like the DICT. We're actively talking to them. We're also in conversations with schools along that caravan journey, just so we can bring them and see how we could work with them to provide them some of our upskilling programs. And we'd love to have conversations with LGUs to see how we could support perhaps their escape programs, their youth upskilling programs. And these programs are free. We provide it for free. We work with our partners so that we can continue to provide it free of charge to as many students, to as many organizations, to as many partners in the government or in the private sector locally.
What are some of the early wins of the MFWs? Maybe you could illustrate for us, maybe one or two who have graduated from the efforts that you're now building.
Yeah, we do have our short film that would tell you more about the MFW. It's called the Metaverse Filipino Worker. One win related to that is it garnered over 1 million views just in a span of 2 weeks. And what that tells me is that the message resonates, or people are interested to know, how can I be an MFW? How can I be a Metaverse Filipino worker working from the Philippines, from Cabanatuan, from Cebu, from Davao, and also still continue to provide for my family? So in terms of winners in the space, our very own community leader who started as a volunteer, who started as just a regular gamer, is now leading our community efforts nationwide. So he's the real star in our community efforts. We also are working with the Sisters of Mary. So a few of their graduates have gone through our Marshall program. And the Marshall program is like a community leaders program. So we've I think 300 graduates from this Marshall program.
And what happens to them next? I mean, do they get employed or do they work from home? I
Yeah.
mean, what's the scenario there after they finish?
Yeah, so some of them become interns. They take part in some of our regular online and IRL programs. Others would be employed by us as well. So we do have some community members or MFWs that we employ as our full-time employees. What we're working on now as would be a job board, sort of like a list of directory. It's just a little crude right now, but it's a directory of opportunities that's available not just in YGG, but our other partners, game partners, AI partners, and also the little tasks that they can do. It may not be a full-time job, but at least it's something that they could piece together, no, as little tasks or activities that they can do as they participate in the metaverse.
It appears that the next run for your company, for YGG Pilipinas, is not in the Philippines because you've based yourselves in Singapore most recently. What's the next stage then, and what is being strategically thought about as to scaling up and ensuring your dominance in the world for Web3?
Yeah, for YGG, we really want to be known as a global brand, and with that comes the challenge of building the products and platform that would scale. On the global side, it's really having that product direction. So we're building a product that will just further scale up community building. And that means that it's going to be easier for people to really plug into the metaverse as their own respective communities. We have what we call our on-chain guild platform. It's really a way for communities to come together and really participate in these efforts in the metaverse in Web3. That's on the product side. We're still constantly looking at how we could really grow our investments as well beyond just games, but also in the AI space. And that also gives us a bit more of visibility so that we know what sort of opportunities are available in these projects and how we could bring them to our communities. On the community side, it's really scaling the reach of the MFW. Now I think around 1 million combined in terms of MFWs, but we still want to grow that. There's opportunity to grow our channel. There's opportunity to grow the number of leaders. There's opportunity to grow the number of efforts, especially the partnerships with government institutions and LGUs to see how we could just have more of our efforts to as many Filipinos as possible.
And also be placed in a country that supports the full ecosystem, as I would imagine in Singapore, would provide you that global visibility. What can we learn from the Singaporean government, though, that Philippines could benefit from? As we do have the talent, but we probably are lacking in maybe policies or maybe the supply chain, if you will.
I think it's really more on the support system for founders and for startups. Admittedly, I'm not too plugged in locally in terms of the current programs, but based on what I'm observing in Singapore, what they have is really a strong support system for their startup technology founders, and also maybe it's the availability of a network within Singapore, because a lot of the businesses are setting up their offices there, and just the ability to meet a fellow founder who's just 15 minutes away and having all these conversations is, I think, a very strong proposition for building from that part of this region.
And that's right. I was remembering, I was just having lunch and somebody told me, oh, the co-founder of is seated next,
Yeah.
and dining in as well. You do have a strong support system here, and in Singapore. Your two kids are in Singapore right now. Have they taken up running? I mean, what have they taken away from this kind of a massive achievement that you've made for yourself?
Yeah, so my kids are active kids. So my son has picked up running. He actually recently just ran 18 kilometers, and this is without any prompting. Maybe he really just saw me lace up my shoe every single day and just uh, decided to do it for himself. My daughter is into the arts, but she also wall climbs. So one of the things, when people ask me what's next for me, I tell them I would like to run faster and maybe train to be a faster runner again, because I was fast in the past. I was able to do faster runs, but now I'm a slow runner, and I'm happy with
But you
that.
won all the medals.
Yeah,
here.
I'm happy with that, but I'm challenged to run faster again because I wanna, if I'd like to run a marathon or even a half marathon with my son. And I want to cross the finish line with him without him having to wait for me. So we want to run, I want to run with him, alongside him as we cross the finish line. And that's a challenge to train for speed again.
Right? What's training like? I mean, you're not running another marathon like
No.
this. Maybe not in the immediate future, but what keeps you fit, or what do you have a certain kind of regimen that you still have to adapt to, or at least discipline yourself into?
Yeah, I try to move and do activities or do my runs or strength training at least 5 times a week. I feel that I have more energy when I start my day with movement. We're quite lucky that we live close to a running path in Singapore now. So that for me is my daily routine. It has to start with movement. In terms of just training for a race, it will really just get more programmatic when I start training for a marathon again. The distances are set. The frequency would be set, but now that I'm on like off season, I think I would just try to vary and get back to my strength training, less on the cardio.
So that culture of movement is in the family. But what about the YGG folks, the MFWs? How do you instill that in them, given that really the main job is sitting in front of a computer and
Yeah.
staying sedentary for
Yeah.
maybe 8 or 10 hours?
Yeah, my teammates now are into paddle and pickleball.
Oh,
We try to encourage at least our core team to be active. We're also thinking of having more like sports activities. See how we could infuse that into our caravan, perhaps. Well, interestingly, part of our caravan is supporting another crazy lady, crazy friend of mine from Singapore, who will do Project 1000. So she will run from north of Luzon to BGC, and we're supporting her. We're the community partners, and she will be running, and our team would support her on the ground. So I encourage my community also to just maybe join her for a few of those legs. And I think she would appreciate having to chat with some of our community members along the way. So that's happening this coming end of April to May.
so she's the
Uh,
lady Forrest Gump.
yeah,
Have you
yeah.
created the path from the north to BGC?
Yes,
And
she
it's a
has.
clear path where the terrain is acceptable?
Yes, so it's a path that goes through the different provinces, but it's a known path. It's not blazing through new territory.
Right. I've had CEOs come on the show talking about doing the Boston Marathon, the London, New York marathons. For those who have yet to come to want to do that, how do they prepare and when?
I tell them whenever people ask me how should I start, I tell them just sign up first. Find the race or find the marathon that you'd like to do and sign up
You start
because
with Tokyo, right? Because that's the easiest. Easiest would be Tokyo.
I started in Berlin because there was
Mm.
no Tokyo then.
All right.
It got added later in my running, but it's in Tokyo that I qualified for Boston. So in
Mm.
2015, I attempted again because the first attempt I didn't get in a qualifying time, but in 2015 I attempted in Tokyo and got a Boston qualifier. So I got to run Boston with the qualifying time in 2017. But for us here in the Philippines, the closest is Tokyo.
Mhm.
But I heard it's oversubscribed. So I think the odds of getting into the Tokyo Marathon is quite low. But I mean, just keep trying. And there are other races. Actually, it doesn't have to be the majors. There are beautiful races here in the Philippines and in the region that you can sign up
Such
for.
as here in the country.
Here in the country, well, there is the Bull Runner
Mhm.
Marathon, which is a great race for first timers and second timers. Uh, I think there's the Milo Marathon still, but just running in the Philippines is good because you can bring your friends, right? And they can cheer along the way. But in the region, there's the Singapore Marathon that happens every December. That was my first marathon in 2008. There's the Angkor Wat Marathon, so you run through the temple. So it doesn't have to be the majors. I think the majors became so popular because it's really fun to be in a very big race with all the best runners from all over the world being there as well. But the advice is just sign up first, and it forces you to think about the program that you need to put in place to start your running training, and to if you really want to get to seriously into running and into marathon training, get a coach. You can figure it out on your own, but it takes longer. But if you have a coach, they can help you, especially a much older runner who with different needs and just little time. Yeah.
Do you not want to think about being a coach now that
No.
you want? It's another kind of a skill
I'd
set.
rather just be a peer and give you like based on experience.
Right.
Yeah.
There's one other race that I think you wanted to complete, and I'm not sure which level you're in, but you're gunning for the Wines and Spirits Education Trust
Yes.
certification.
Yes.
Out of nowhere, we got a connoisseur in front of me.
Yes. Well, still learning,
Still.
always learning. So
Have you made it though?
I was supposed to take my exams last year. It's a diploma. It's a level 4 for WSET, but it didn't make sense training for a marathon and tasting wines. So
Why not? It's
yeah,
your
it's
sort
two
of
very different
yes, it-
things, right? So I said it's not harmonious. So I'll park this training, this wine training, and I'll pick it up this year. So I said I'll finish the race and then I'll take my big exams this year. So there's one upcoming this June and another in October. Hopefully, I get to prepare in the same manner I prepared, which is like studying every day or training every day and really just chunking this big endeavor of learning about the theory of wines and tasting and practicing my tasting notes. I'd love to use my run training to guide me as I also do my wine training.
you can consider it a reward
Yeah.
at the end of the session.
Yeah.
I'm level 2. So I
Yay.
know how much of an effort it takes, and at the end of the session, you just kind of feel drunk
Yeah.
enough to answer the questions. Thank you so much, Mench. Appreciate the time, and all the best in your next races in life.
Thank you for having me, Cathy. Thank you.
And catch us again next Thursday, 9 p.m. Philippine Standard Time on One News. You can also check out the long conversation on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. And if you haven't done so, like or follow my social media pages. I'm Cathy Yang, and this is Thought Leaders.